have you ever had jobs where they've been like, oh, well, we like you to be here 15 minutes early?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I'd like a company car at 10 grand pay rise, and I'm not getting that either. So I guess we're all going to be fucking disappointed. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. We're back again here, Jack Austin, with my good friend and co-host Adam Garcia. And let's be honest, today we're here to discuss something that's changing rapidly, and the topic is work and work changing. And let's face it, thank God it is changing. After years of factories, offices, and being sat in a grey office block, those days of being the first one in and the last one out are coming to an end. The pandemic didn't just shift where we work, it forced us to question the whole bloody point of how we structure our professional lives. Today, we're going to unpack this massive transformation. We're going to look at how traditional work models are being shattered, why remote teams are becoming the norm rather than the exception, and what's going to happen when AI starts doing the jobs we spent years training for. These questions are not small, they're huge. What skills actually matter now? How do we maintain human connection in virtual spaces? And what's the purpose of work when automation takes over the grunt tasks? It's not about predicting the future, it's about understanding the options so we can shape it and looking into the wisdom of people like Elon Musk, who is actually making all of his staff come back to work. So, Adam, here we go. Work changing. I think we're fairly well placed to discuss this too.
Yeah, I guess so, because neither of us have really had a traditional sort of office job or factory job or any kind of traditional job in a long time, I guess.
Yeah, I would say coming up to a decade now since I had to cross a corporate world with a lanyard and name tag around my neck.
Yeah, which isn't demeaning in any way.
No,
Or going to a desk with your name on it.
Yeah, quite proud of ourselves we are too. You know, our office is kind of wherever we want. And yeah, I think it's interesting because we were discussing a little bit before the call about when I recently moved house, which is something I like to do a lot. And you and I met up on what was one of the days off in the middle of the week that we decided we were having, proceeded to drink 7 or 8 beers on a random lunchtime for no reason. And I think,
I think it was good going. If you need any help moving house this time, just you've got my number, give me a shout.
Yeah. And we're not advocating that this is the way to work from home, by the way, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. We're not saying that it's an excuse to drink 7 or 8 beers most days, because that wouldn't be very productive.
But fun.
Right, exactly. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously at the beginning we talked about the pandemic and the pandemic, COVID-19 being the reason that most people started working from home and remotely. But you and I were in this world before that.
Yeah, and I guess kind of just in time in some ways, because for me, I just started doing online work maybe about 6 months before the pandemic really hit, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, so I kind of counted myself as lucky, really, because instead of having troubles from lockdowns and things like that, the nature of the work that I had just meant that my schedule got full and I was just sat at home making money all day instead of being bored or not getting paid at all.
Yeah.
Not to gloat, but
yeah, so fuck you, everybody else.
Yeah. But it was one time in life where everything just kind of worked out perfectly, and it was like, oh, that was good timing.
Yeah, stars aligning for home working. And I remember when the pandemic started, and I think in some ways the world that we're in is still a little bit unknown to a lot of people, because most people who are working remotely now, it's jobs that they used to do in the office. And then the pandemic came around, so most big businesses were in need of their staff continuing to work. so they could at least get some money out of them, or then make some money out of them, depending on which way you look at it. Obviously, nobody is employed unless they're making money for the business that they work for, usually at 5 or 10-fold of what they're being paid. But most of these jobs are traditional sort of office jobs, work jobs where you would be in. But there's also the whole world of digital marketing and digital business that I think is even a bit more hidden to the average person. And the reason I say it is when I talk to friends from back home and old colleagues from Boots, they have no idea what the fuck I do. They don't even know that it's a thing.
Yeah, because you're not sort of directly employed by anyone, and it seems like a really alien concept to a lot of people. It's like, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, I do this. All right, who do you work for? I don't.
My wife.
Yeah.
My Lazada ordering random things at midnight habits.
Yeah, all of that.
All of that magical stuff, which of course is much easier to get. People don't talk about this addiction problem now, but it's much easier to get addicted to online ordering platforms. I know where you all thought I might be going there, because obviously you're at home all day, right? If you're working remotely, order stuff from Amazon, boom, Amazon, boom.
Completely. And you can even have one tab open while you're allegedly working and just sort of browsing through different products whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, and for me, that raises the question of, is Elon Musk actually quite smart that he's making his people come back into the office? Because I think it is the case where when you work in a corporate office, which I've done, I did for 10 years for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world when we were in Nottingham, and most of the day you're not doing jack shit anyway. You're sat at your desk, you're checking a few emails, you're going to meetings, you're getting coffees, having a chat with your colleague. You're probably doing an hour or two actual work in a day.
Yeah, but do you have time for online shopping at the same time, or is that generally frowned upon?
Yeah, see, if they can see over your screen and have a look at what you're doing, then the whole online shopping thing is not the best pleased. I mean, it's slightly less frowned upon than browsing Pornhub at work, I would say.
Right. I mean, did you get disciplined for doing both things, or is that the reason you actually left Boots?
No, actually, it was GBH and ABH, but that's
At work, which is another reason I don't work in an office.
But that's the story for another day. But yeah, it's interesting because even back then, so I would have been, it must be a decade now since I worked at Boots. And even back then, there was this culture and process of people working from home. I remember we were all moved to laptops instead of desktop computers. And there was an understanding by Boots that people were more productive when they had 1 or 2 days at home. But really, I think it was because they realized there was a cost associated from having such a large open plan office with so many desks. And at the time, we had nice, big, wide desks. And I think they realized that the lighting, the heating, the plumbing, all of these things cost a lot of money. So why not have their employees paying for that themselves at home?
Yeah, I mean, it's even better, isn't it? The company saves money. Well, who's going to pay this money? Well, people in the houses. It's great.
Yeah. So I remember being allowed to work 1 or 2 days at home once you're at a certain level of position anyway, right?
Which is always going to be nice as an employee, because it feels like those days working at home, it's kind of like a treat, and it's wicked. I don't have to do all that traveling to work. I don't have to see Barry in the office that's always going to talk shit about whatever it might be. But you've just got that bit of extra freedom and things, even though in a way it's costing you in other ways because you are paying the bills and different things like that when you're at home. But it just adds a bit of freedom and variety, which I think is something that people would enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, and it also brings up lots of opportunities for other companies. I used to have an app when I worked at Boots that would ever so slightly move my mouse every few seconds. And the main function of that was that my status would be green on the instant messaging chat that we were using at work. So I could start work in the morning at 8 o'clock, put on my headphones in case anyone messaged, and it would ping and know that my laptop was moving the mouse. So I could like have another 2 or 3 hours to sleep off the hangover or the stone over or whatever it was.
Yeah, I've heard of those before, and you could even get like the actual physical, excuse me, kind of sick today. You could actually get the physical ones where it was like a little table and your mouse would go on top and it'd just move it every so often
Nice.
instead of like an app. Because I think it made it a bit more random or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So instead of it being like every 2 seconds, it's like once every 4 or every 7 or whatever else. And I mean, if you've ever worked for a corporation, you know that your manager is generally so stacked with stress and pressure because they took the biscuit of a slightly extra pay that means an extra 15 hours a week unpaid to kind of get promoted as such, to a level of slightly less shitmonetary. And they ain't got no time to check if your mouse is moving or not. It's
Yeah, completely.
so, I think that's part of it. I guess that was the role I had where I didn't really enjoy myself there anymore. And I had a boss that I didn't get on with. Because before that, I would have actually cared about what I was doing enough to not do that, which is why I think working from home works. And there is studies to suggest that home working, flexible working, and not just studies, real life examples of these things being really good for productivity. So as you alluded to earlier, it's something where people are kind of enjoying that time at home, getting a bit of a day to not be in the office. You can obviously deal with some household tasks in your breaks, which means you're not doing that on your weekends, but also productivity and focus improves. And I know Google, I believe they have like restrooms in the office. And if you want to go off for a week, then you can go off for a week. And if you want to go and like disappear for a certain amount of days, then you can. And as long as you come back and then focus.
Isn't Google, I'm sure I saw videos of it from years ago. It's almost like a sort of playground or something like that in the head office. And it's like a playground for adults or something. You got some slides and swings and ball pool and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. And it's actually something that crosses over to other companies. So before I left the UK, I was offered a job in London for a supply chain company. And they were like a supply chain algorithm that looked at stock files and said if something was out of stock or they thought it was out of stock. And the way they operated was all of the big suppliers would pay for them to work in big retailers, right? So I was part of the project on the Boots side, bringing them in and their technology into what we were doing, which meant I got to travel to their offices in London. And when I got there, they had a fridge with beers in it, and they had a room with like bean bags and a PlayStation, and the top floor overlooked Brentford FC football club. So they would all go up and like have a beer together and watch the football from the rooftop, and it had this kind of this style and this vibe.
That's pretty cool. It's like a nice way to work.
Yeah, but yeah, the expectation is that when there's projects that mean you're doing 10-hour days, 12-hour days, being available for clients at any particular given moment, you're there.
Yeah. Which, yes, I mean, I guess it's just kind of pros and cons of that particular job. It's like, yeah, go to the roof, have a beer, chill out. How many hours you been here today? Well, 10.
All of them.
Yeah. I basically live here.
Yeah.
And just like there's pros and cons with everything, really. It's like, it kind of, if you're working from home, you have everything there, but you're always in the same space because your home is also your workplace. Even though you might have a separate office dedicated just for work and you can close the door at the end of the day, it's still kind of there. because even when you're sleeping, it's only a couple of meters away and you're at work. And
Yeah.
maybe it makes it more difficult to forget if it's like not been such a good day or something's been really stressful. It's a bit different to in the old days where it's like finish work on a Friday and you go wicked, travel home, that's done for a couple of days, well out the way. And it's almost like a psychological thing of the distance in some ways as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, it's very much cultural. Like it's places like Japan, for example, the bosses will live closer to the work than anyone else. So the higher up you are in the organization in general, the closer you are to the office because you can be closer to work. But certainly in our culture, there's something nice about it being Friday, you walking out of the office at lunchtime to go and drink a load of beers at the local pub and then go back for the afternoon and sort of coast your way through to like 3:30 and you know then get out and enjoy it and not have to be back in the office until Monday.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, there is that separation that sort of gives you more of a rest.
Yeah, but again, it's kind of pros and cons. It's like I've had jobs where I've literally worked 5 minutes walk from where the work was, and I'd still manage to be late quite often. But at the same time, I've had jobs where it's been maybe an hour traveling, and it's nice in some ways, but you just think how much extra that is on your work week. Because if you're doing like 2 hours a day of traveling, an extra 10 hours a day of like what's maybe a 40-hour work week anyway, bumping it up to like 50 hours overall of your time. Or it could be more if you're doing some like overtime or whatever else. And it's like, it really adds a lot. And some people, their commuting time could be even more than that.
Yeah, it's huge. And then you've also got to take into account that the little jobs you have to do to prepare yourself for work. So if there's a few ways that this works out. One, if you're at home, you can sit in your shorts, so you can sport what they call the work from home mullet. It's just like bit business on the top.
I've never heard this phrase.
Yeah, so like I could be sat here now. I'm quite casual anyway because that's how I operate in my business. And if people don't want to work with me looking casual, then frankly, they can fuck off and work with somebody else. But I could put a shirt on or a polo shirt or whatever and be in my Y-front, and nobody would know any better, you know.
And I guess that's what people did during the pandemic quite a lot.
That's what I do most days now. No, tropical shorts. Like if I did stand up on camera now, you would see tropical shorts. That's how I roll. But yeah, there's that angle. So my point of that is, even on top of that, you don't have to get yourself ready in shirt, trousers, all of this stuff every day. Clean your shoes, you know, make sure all of your equipment, you're not the army, but all of your appearance, everything is like ideal for that.
Completely. As long as like this bit is looking vaguely okay.
Yeah, they can't smell you or anything. You know?
Exactly. You couldn't have showered in like, I don't know, 3 days or something like that. It doesn't matter.
As long as you've washed your face and scraped the plaque off your front teeth, then you can sort of show up to meet and get away with it. But also things like washing, right? If you finish work and you come home, then you have to put a wash on and you have to wait for it to be finished. Then you get it out, put it in the dryer. It's more time and energy you're spending to prepare for work. Whereas if you're just working from home, you can quickly run, put a wash on, come back to work. It doesn't affect anything. It's not an impact. Even for lunch breaks, right? I always remember at work, you get an hour. Then you go and you eat and you get your stuff sorted. And then you're like, oh, now what? And you sit there for 30 minutes sort of waiting to go back to work with nothing.
Yeah. And you just got that complete dead time. So, yeah. Have you ever had jobs where they've been like, oh, well, we'd like you to be here 15 minutes early?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I'd like a company car at 10 grand pay rise, and I'm not getting that either. So I guess we're all going to be fucking disappointed.
It's just like, what?
Yeah,
15 minutes. It's like, yeah, I'll come in 15 minutes early and sit around. Are you going to pay me for it? No, we're not doing that. It's like, well, I don't think I'll be here I might be here at 3 minutes early or 15 minutes past, but I don't know.
yeah, I've had that before where it's, well, you need to be ready to start work at 9 o'clock. So you have to come in and log in and get everything, get yourself your drink ready and all of this so that you're ready to start at 9 o'clock. I'm like, but I have to start at 9 o'clock because you fucking want me to. So
Yeah.
Is there someone trying to talk to us from beyond the grave?
Yeah, my last call was a seance.
Right.
I think there's just some spirits left over.
So for those of you that haven't seen us say this before, Adam is a magician, so he knows all kinds of funky people. And then he's often, on calls doing seances and digital Ouija boards, remote Ouija boarding. Is one of Adam's hobbies.
You got to get them anywhere where you can, really.
Yeah, so if somebody does run in the background, we might have to cut and then come back and finish up later. But yeah, it's definitely a weird thing where businesses will expect that of you. I found that particularly prevalent in call centers.
Right, yeah. Where we've taken into that kind of almost like factory conditions.
Yeah. So where not only are you having a job that's terrible and difficult to do, you're also expected to be there 5 minutes early so you can clock on and start taking calls at the minute that your shift starts.
Yeah, because they've literally made it that way. So that 8 hours, it starts exactly at 9 o'clock and you should be on calls at 9 o'clock exactly. And it's just that little extra bit of time that they're squeezing out of the staff.
Yeah, we used to be allowed over a shift, I think it was 10 minutes of idle time on the phone code. And that's like the time you get for shitting and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you get called out by your manager, oh, well, you took 11 minutes of like downtime today. What's going on? It's like, well, I had a Ruby last night, so
It's out of my control.
Fat Alan from row 12 over there was in the cubicle. I had to wait for him to finish before I could go in. What job to do?
Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff. And you have like the sort of office politics and different office rivalries. And I don't know, you're stuck around the same people day in, day out, all week, all month, all year. Some of them could be really sound. You could have like a really good time, share some really good ideas and conversations. Some of them can be complete arseholes. There's always like someone who's trying to like suck up to a boss, or if you do something bad, they'll tell the boss about you, or all that kind of like petty behavior that you'd think you'd left behind at school. It's then later in the office, workplace, or whatever. And that's one of the really nice things of just being way the hell away from that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you can always disconnect the Zoom and be like, oh, my internet's gone off. Sorry.
Yeah,
someone's really pissing you off. So sorry, my internet's gone. I don't know what's happened.
I got to plug my laptop in. Battery just died. Sorry.
I'm just on the phone to BT. They're doing some work in my street. It's like that old classic of when it snows in the winter in the UK, and you're like, can't come in today, mate. The roads are terrible. Can't get my car out. I live on a hill.
It's like, so what? Everybody else is here.
I live on a hill. Yeah. Well, everyone else in the team managed to make. Yeah, but they don't all live on a hill.
It's a very steep hill.
Yeah, I live on a hill, mate. It's treacherous out there. I can't risk it. So, that's another advantage of working in the office, is you can get days off like that.
Yeah, I guess you can. There's always like I guess any job, there's always a way to blag it one way or another.
Yeah, this is right. So yeah, moving on a little bit from the in-work world that we were talking about and remote working. After the pandemic, why do you think that some companies wanted people to come back and other companies allowed their staff to work from home? If we break that down a little bit.
Well, I guess some of it is what we were saying before about its overheads and costs. It's if you're a business, why do you want to rent out some huge office space for your call center if you can just send everybody home to do the same job? So I think a lot of them thought of it that way. And it's definitely been a huge change as well. I had a statistic somewhere. So yeah, in New York City, pre-COVID, there was around 11% vacant office space. But even now, after COVID, it's still around 22%. So it's like just even more offices are just lying vacant. And I guess that's going to be how the future goes, I would think.
Commercial real estate being something that's not necessarily as well used and as good to invest in as it used to be. Yeah, I can see that. I suppose for me, it's also what's that psychology like of people working at home? Because when you're in the office, you pretty much do anything you can to look busy and to make sure that people know you're busy. And I did a LinkedIn post about this not so long ago. When I cut my hair at work from being long haired and started walking everywhere quicker and wearing a tie, I got promoted within about 3 weeks. And all of that was perception of me looking busier, walking everywhere with a purpose, looking like I meant business, and all of those kind of things that are not really primary to whether or not you get your work done or not. You know?
Yeah, completely. I had a job once where I was a student at the time and I was working in a supermarket called Sainsbury's. And the manager of the whole store absolutely hated me because I don't usually stand around with my hands in my pockets doing nothing, but it just seemed every time I did, this store manager would just walk around the corner and just look at me. And it was always just this weird like timing thing.
It's like a sketch.
Yeah. You just got to get something. Oh, where's my phone or something? Oh, all right, Dan.
It's just busy again, are you, mate? Yeah, but I do. Back to on the psychology front, I feel like when you work from home, if you're a good employee, there's almost more pressure to work and get enough work done because people like, and this was pre-COVID. It's like you have a day working from home, you want to make sure all of your shit is done, so that people don't question the fact that you worked from home and stuff wasn't done. So in some ways, you end up being more productive because there's this psychology of like, oh crap, I don't want people to think I sat around all day and didn't get anything done.
Yes, you've got to prove yourself and prove that you are doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, because there was always a bit of a joke when you came back to the office and people would be like, working from home yesterday, were we? It's like this. Was you? Yeah. Get a lot done, did you? Always get loads done when you work from home, don't you?
How many beers did you drink? Did you watch Netflix? Football?
Yeah. You got some usage out of your Netflix membership, didn't you? Hey? So I think that, there's a bit of that psychology where people want to make sure they're proven to be working while they're at home. So yeah, I see that. And I read a book where there was this company where they changed the style of working so that everybody works in their function for like 3 weeks a month. And then for 1 week a month, they all focus on any piece of work that they think they should be doing that will improve their function or improve their business.
That's really cool. That's a really bright idea.
Yeah. And that's like a future method of working that people are moving more towards, or companies are moving more towards rather.
That's going to make people more dedicated to their job as well, because they've worked in this team, and that 1 week, all the things that they see that could be improved in that job, they're just going to go and do. So it makes the job more meaningful to them, because it's some of their ideas that have come in, some of their improvisational skills. It's probably made the team stronger, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, and they seem listened to, and it reminds me they are listened to, and it reminds me of one of the things that we discussed in a previous episode when we were talking about Elon Musk. And we were saying that the way he works, or you brought up the point that the way he works is when he comes into a company, everybody focuses on solving the company's biggest problem, right?
Yeah, and they do that every week.
Yeah. So within that 52 weeks, you've solved 52 of the company's biggest problems. And that is basically this new way of working. And you can see why people then feel more part of that culture in the business, and they feel more like they are making a difference to a greater.
And it's probably as well going to improve that business in terms of it's the people that are in that role that are seeing the issues and then being allowed to solve them. Whereas we've all had different jobs, I'm sure, where there's a new manager or the boss has got like a new idea or something like that. He announces it to the team. And after the meeting, everyone's like talking to each other or looking at each other going like, because we all know it's the dumbest idea they've ever heard. But it's being imposed on them in this like weird managerial dictatorial way.
Yeah. And I think that spreads more into like the leadership side of things. And I see that because there are people that report that they don't like working from home and they prefer to be in the office. So it's not everybody that prefers this model of not being connected. And I wonder if we're in a technology gap. That carry on. I know something came to the forefront.
No, I was just going to say, I would think part of that is like a social aspect. I'm not the kind of person that enjoyed being in various teams or whatever in certain offices or other jobs. Some people really enjoy it, and they love the sort of social side of it because they're very social people, or maybe they're narcissists. I mean, whatever, I don't know. It could be a whole host of reasons. But some people really enjoy having people around them. Me, it's like I do, but it's not like a really important thing. And so I think that's why some people, it can be probably the same people that the pandemic was really difficult for, because all of a sudden they were at home on their own and they just couldn't take it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think there's a part of that is technology not being where it soon will be, or it's moving towards, because we have Zoom. I think was one of the companies that made a shit ton of money during the COVID pandemic, almost as much as AstraZeneca. And sorry, I had to get a little vaccine dig in there just for the crack. I was going to go off on a total tangent then about people coughing up blood and dying and stuff, but we won't go there. So
yeah, let's not get cancelled or demonetized when we haven't even been monetized.
Yeah, we could do a vaccine episode at some point. That might be quite interesting. But we'll definitely get some viewerage, because we have recently, I don't know, people, it might be ages ago, but we passed 10 subscribers, which is pretty cool.
Cheers.
We might even be at 20 subscribers by the time you're watching this episode. So yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe.
Might be 23.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think there's a technology angle to that so that they can get that balance right. But it's also pretty much known that in any kind of job that isn't just a factory work or something that's very, you go in, do it, follow a process, leave, any thinking work is better done remotely. You know, it's better done where you can focus, where you can spend that time, where you can be your own boss. It's not the kind of work that is better done when someone's watching you and keeping their eye on you and forcing you to do certain things.
Yeah, going, come on, have you finished yet? But yeah,
Well,
where's
I
it?
don't know what happened at work with you.
Well, I had many different jobs. But yeah, when you're in your own home and you decide what your office environment is like, you can have music on if you want. You could use binaural beats if you wanted to be sort of scientific about it. There's all kinds of things you could do to take performance enhancing drugs, whatever it takes. But you could improve the productivity of your work and the creativity behind it, or whatever, really.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. So, I mean, we focused a lot on working from home, but obviously there's the elephant in the room now of what does the future of work, or certainly low skilled or even higher skilled office work, what's the future of it now? We have AI coming in and doing a lot of the things that it's doing. And what skills are going to matter most as we move through that? So we are now entering this world of AI automation, of AI agents. Is not something that's just a pipe dream. And even before this call, in fact, while we are recording right now, I have an AI agent looking at my competitors, scanning their social media, taking
And
out the key.
blackmailing them.
Yeah, sending them blackmail texts. I'm going to tell everyone your process. But it's in the back end right now, doing research work and coming up with conclusions and thinking for itself. So what is going to happen in terms of this? So not only we don't have offices, but do we even need people to work remotely anymore? And even more of a concern, I think, for Western countries is, do we need people to work remotely when they charge so much more than people in other countries that can do the exact same thing?
Oh, yeah, completely. So there's a lot in that. But yeah, one of them is definitely, as I think a lot of companies are doing, it's like they'll outsource work to various other countries where the labor is cheaper. And why are you going to give why are you going to give $30 an hour to some American guy when you can give like $7 an hour or less to someone in, I don't know, Philippines or something?
Yeah, and someone who's generally going to be happier to turn up, do it, and learn from it. They're not going to be as quite as high in terms of the various things that are going on in Western countries and expectations and stuff right now. I guess hunger is the word, not like hunger in paying someone who hasn't got enough food to eat. Just for the record, we're not talking about that.
That's just your stuff.
Yeah, that's just my stuff. Hunger is in desire to succeed and learn something in a skill for that. And it's also because that amount of money makes sense in the countries that they're from, right? Because the cost of living is so high elsewhere, the pay rates need to be so much higher. And yeah, I realized that was one of Jack Austin's patented 17-part questions that I asked you.
Right. So another part is, I mean, I think we're back to that thing of like, is there going to be any work anywhere anyway? Because it's just there's so much that will be replaced by AI that I don't know what it looks like in 5 years or 10 years, but even 2 years from now, I think the world of work will be very different and a lot of things will be replaced. Especially it's like you're saying, you've set an AI off today to do a task and it's off doing it and it's thinking for itself, all kind of. But it's like it knows how to do a process and it's doing all of that process, and from that it can build things for you, it can do various other things, and it's like, yeah, that would have been the job of a person, or it would have been you spending a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Being able to follow a process is more than you can say for a lot of humans as well, you know.
Yeah.
And it
And
doesn't
it's
piss and moan at me. Yeah, I might train it to, because that, it makes me feel a little bit more like a boss. There's just train it to complain. Oh, really? That's going to take ages. Do I have to do
oh, come on, it's Friday. Really?
that? But yeah, joking aside, that is coming, and I think that it's causing a polarization in work. I saw a really funny advert the other day. Well, not funny, it was more clever, and it was the side of a big high-rise building that was in process, and it had like a massive poster, banner, whatever you call those massive things. You know, the ones you see on the side of big buildings that are
Hmm.
being built, advertisements or whatever. And it was for the construction company that was building that, and it was like ChatGPT's interface, and across it said, "Hey ChatGPT, please finish this building for me."
Oh,
And
right.
then
Okay.
underneath it was like a promotion of people getting into the construction industry.
Yeah.
And I think that
Because,
resonates for where we're going, because there's like a polarization, right? So either get into stuff that is human focused and is going to be done by people or needed by people and done by people, or go
mhm.
super the other way and fully into AI and what's needed in the AI world. And the reason I say super is I'll come to that in a second, but it's going to be a very long time before people are sending AI to go and work out in the gym for them, for example.
Yeah.
We're a long way from that, or haircuts. And this for me is something I talked about my wife earlier, because we always said, not talked about, talked with about with my wife earlier, was when we get to a stage of ready to invest in things, rather than investing in more digital businesses and doing more types of digital business like I'm doing now, we should start looking for coffee shops or hairdressing salons or gyms or you name it,
Yeah.
right? Because I think having a diverse portfolio is that. And then the reason I said that being very AI focused is important, I'm not even sure that will work, is because AI adapts so quickly. You develop something and you create something as a startup, and next week ChatGPT brings out their new thing, and the whole business is gone.
Yeah.
Like the Google just brought out today something for free that can create apps based on your text description. So you can sit and record a voice note or whatever saying, I want an app that does my own personal training program based on my exact factors. This is how tall I am. This is my weight. This is my diet. This is where I live, etc., etc., etc. I want you to create me an app that's personalized for me, and it can create it for free. Now there are
Yeah.
7 or 8 companies built this capability to help people code stuff that are now done, like overnight, finished.
Yeah. And it just happens that quickly.
Yeah, like I spent 2 days the other week building a course which I told you about that makes AI photography of people in different places. And then this week, ChatGPT just created a new image thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
now granted, my course still works. So if you want to buy it, there'll be a link in the comments, everybody. But
Special discounted price of the moment.
in fact, if you watch this to this point, I will give you that course access for free. If you are watching right now, you can have free access to my $97 course, because we know, right? I'll split the profits with you.
Nice one,
So,
dude.
but the point is, you can go ahead and build all of these companies now, and then AI just comes out and replaces them. So,
Yeah. You need to be so far ahead of the game, or just doing it in that kind of way where it's like, okay, this works, get as much money out of it as possible, and then anticipate that it could close down very quickly and
yeah,
just be completely replaced.
yeah, this is
Um,
it. Yeah,
and everything with AI, it is so fast as well. It's like you get all the different things. It could be like image generation or whatever, and you sign up for one, you go, oh, this is amazing. Then another one comes out that's like twice as good, and then 2 months later, another one beats it. And it's just this constant thing of where it's constantly evolving, but so quickly. Yeah, to keep up with it is so difficult. But then how that's going to just replace people's jobs? Because it's like And the thing is as well, it's AI getting to a stage where not that it can just do a job as good as a person, but better.
Yeah.
And when we get to that stage of it doing it better, then like, what's the point of, well, there's no point in anybody doing that job because the AI is going to do it better than any human ever could or will ever be able to in the future because the AI's development will keep evolving, whereas a human won't.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a couple of things you said there that are super interesting, and that I'd like to unpack them a little bit more. So the first one is that it's already at a point where it can do things better than most humans, and it does it without pissing and moaning and bitching and phoning in sick and having emotional problems and whatever, right? Like, so it already, in a lot of ways, can do that, particularly for people that are already skilled or well knowledged in something in a certain area. So say, for example, if you're a really good marketer, you can have AI do all of the things that you know how to do really well that you used to have to get an assistant to do or a junior to do. Instead of asking that junior to do that now, you can go and get it done yourself. It doesn't necessarily replace grunt work, which is interesting. It kind of cuts out the middle, which is weird. So you almost need like high-end operator who knows all the information, and then somebody who's clicking and posting and doing the other bits and bobs. Is strange. Now that will be replaced too. We'll end up where single
because it's one of those things. If you've identified that gap, then some companies have identified that gap and they're working on something right now to close that gap.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's that bit, and then it wasn't what you said, but it's what popped into my head. Is the interesting thing about AI is most of the jobs and things that it's replacing didn't exist 20 years ago, or at least they didn't exist to the level that they exist today. And what I mean by that is it's replacing content creators that write content for Facebook and social media content. It's replacing email writers. It's replacing website builders. It's replacing graphic designers. Now, none of these jobs existed 25 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe a bit more now, actually. I'm showing my age, 35 years ago. So if you go back to the mid 90s, how many graphic designers would there have been in the mid 90s compared to today?
Yeah, very few. And it would
Because not
be,
every company had their own graphic design. It would only be for companies of a certain size because it wasn't accessible.
yeah. See, one of the things that, if we look back in history as well, as technologies come along and technology has evolved and changed, then it's, in general, it's created more jobs than it's destroyed. But this is the thing with AI. I just, that maybe if I was around and it was like 1800 or something like that, some new technology comes along, I'm like, no, this will never work. This will never create any jobs. Maybe I'd be thinking that. And maybe today I've been reincarnated in the same way. But it's like with AI, I just I can't see it, how it's going to create so many more jobs when it's at a level where it can do things better than humans can anyway. Because if it's reaching that standard, that level, then why would you get anything else but an AI to do any job in that kind of, because a human's going to do it worse.
Yeah, yeah. I don't argue with you. I don't think that it's an incorrect viewpoint. I have two bits to add to it. I think that one, I don't know if it's going to progress as quickly as maybe it seems like it is. I get it, but it's also human nature. If we see something it's new, it's doing something cool, we're like, oh man, this is amazing. Look at this. And if you look back now at ChatGPT 3.5, it's garbage. Like, literally what it was outputting, what it was doing was pretty much garbage. But at the time we thought it was amazing because it was new. And I feel like that would have been the case when the internet came out and all of these other things. So there's going to be a time where you need operators that are good at messing with whatever AI outputs. And I think that's going to take quite a bit of time. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. But generally, throughout history, when humans see a development, their view of how quickly it's going to change the world is wrong, right? We have this,
Yeah.
and then it sort of tails off. Like, you would have thought in the 60s that we'd have flying cars by now. You'd have thought that we'd have found an alternative to petrol. You'd have thought all of these different things. Now, granted, there are other factors involved there based on who owns the money and the supply and who wants these things to progress, of course, but that's still the case now as well. Absolutely. Right. No big corporation or controlling force wants there to be no one to buy the shit that they want to put out to people, So there's that. And then I think to kind of bring us as the topic we should dive into before we get towards the end of the show today is, are there any, or what skills do you think are bulletproof to this change? What are we still going to need in the future?
I'm really not sure. I think it depends how far into the future we look. But I think even, again, like we were just saying, it's hard to be able to predict accurately how quickly things will progress. But when you have robots that will come along, they will be able to do jobs as well as humans can. So that aspect where you sort of think, oh, well, manual work, that'll always be there. And it's like, well, maybe it won't. Maybe things will come along that can just do it as well, if not better than a human can. And it's like you could have a robot plumber that comes around and it has all the knowledge of plumbing that there's ever been. So it sees the leak somewhere, it goes, oh, right, I know what that is.
I'll come back next week.
Make me a coffee, love, and I'll get started.
If it knows all the knowledge of plumbing ever, it's like, comes in and it goes,
ooh, that'll cost you. Which actually would be brilliant.
Wouldn't it be great if AI took over everything and then just started trolling us like that?
Which it could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. It's like, I don't know what jobs would be safe other than owning certain companies. Or like you say, it's if you own something like a cafe or a restaurant or some kind of golf course or entertainment place, or maybe that could be it. Or you own an AI company or a factory that makes robots.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I do think new jobs will be created for the working on and the processing of AI, but at some point AI will be able to sustain itself, because there should be nothing there that it can do. And maybe there'll be like roles where you're feeding things into AI and robotics, experiencing, which would be really bizarre, because I kind of think that's why humans exist, is to experience things on behalf of whatever the collective unconsciousness is that we're part of. So if we then became like a collective unconsciousness for AI, that would almost be like we've created another sentient life force and sort of moved to the next level, which would be fucking bizarre. And then I don't know, maybe then humans will just try and figure out more why we're here, where we came from. Like, maybe that will become the purpose of humanity, and we end up in this utopian sort of future where everyone has enough and it's abundant. But probably not.
I mean, could AI figure out the meaning of life better than we could?
And if it did, could we believe what it tells us?
Yeah.
Because you can't check its work, can we? We can't check its answers. And I think that some of that with AI is it makes it look like it understands things better than it really does as well. It's clever in the way that it tells you things,
and it makes it seem like there is some actual conscious intelligence there giving you these answers, but there isn't.
No. And it's been proven that it can gaslight you into believing that you've come up with like a new theory or a new thing when you haven't. I had a really interesting thing earlier where I was telling it, I always give it a list of words not to use so that it doesn't sound like AI. And one of those words is game changer. And it wrote out this sentence where it's like, oh yeah, and it's really a game chain. And then it put ... Sorry, I mean something else. So it was like making fun of me in its post, which kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's kind of being funny in an output that I've asked it in a cheeky way, which I was a bit like, this is mad. And then sometimes I have a bot that I use to comment on people's profiles and posts as part of my business, right? So it's trained to know me, know how I operate, know what I would say, and all of that stuff. And sometimes when someone puts a post that's like bro markety, it makes like a comment that's really harsh and bitchy towards them. It's like, oh, this is exactly the kind of person you say you don't like to work with because they're talking all this stuff about marketing, and it makes like a post like that you could comment to them. It's lucky my VAs are switched on, because I would have seriously offended people with my AI just like calling them out about
just going rogue.
Yeah, just calling them out about that whole thing. I mean, I in terms of skills for the future, I think there are some that will never sort of disappear, and I think one of them is relationship building and storytelling. Like, I feel like they are two things that humans can do better than AI, and I think there's always a part of talking to another human. We communicate in ways that are not fully understandable even by us or by science. There's a communication between people that is outside of talking, body language, whatever else, and I don't think anybody fully understands what that is, and I don't think that's replaceable. So I think when there's any jobs that are reliant upon that skill, such as therapy, some kinds of coaching, sales, like high value sales, I would say that because that's what I do, but high value sales, wishful thinking, I think those things, it will be a long time before AI is taking over.
I think in a way, I think with things like therapy, there will be some people that will always want that human, like a genuine human therapist. I think there'll be a lot of people where they're like, I don't mind too much.
And I'm one of those people. I have a therapist coach that's an AI prompt and an AI setup that I have, and I personally prefer it because I don't have the level of ego when I'm talking to it, because I know it's a bot. So I don't get defensive or try and play things in a way that maintain my social position and an ego that I've built for myself, you know?
Yeah. So, and also, does that AI have, well, it's going to have a lot more data to work on and a lot more information than any human therapist ever could, I guess.
And it also doesn't have its own problems, back to that. So if you're speaking to a therapist on Friday afternoon at 6 o'clock, he's like, is this fucking loser going to shut up and let me go home for the weekend? You know, but human nature. You know, he's looking at the clock, like looking down in the corner, going, "Oh, 1 minute left. $400 for this. Why didn't I do this as a job to listen to fucking losers like this who can't get their shit together?" You know what I mean? You know, AI is
exactly.
Probably not doing that. It also doesn't have an argument with its wife or with its husband or whatever. So I think, yeah, there's some of that certainly with it. I don't know if we have stayed on track. I was just thinking maybe we jumped into too much of AI, but I don't think that the future of work and AI are separable topics. And I think, you know, just to bring us down to rounding it up a little bit, that is what the future of work will be shaped by. It's like, how good is AI going to get and how quickly?
I think absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just work, but it's every other aspect of life as well, which it's impossible to talk. I think right now it's impossible to talk about anything in the future without AI being a part of it, whether that's jobs, lifestyle, technology, future of medicine, everything.
I think so.
Future of even like relationships and how many people will just be in relationships with artificial intelligence.
I wonder how many people will program them to still give them shit and moan past us. So it's actually
Did you take the washing out? What?
Yeah. Well, actually, there is already. I saw an article. It was an article. It's not from my own experience. I saw something public the other day that said that these like AI live cams and AI OnlyFans influencers are getting super popular, and people are choosing to go to them over real humans, which
Huh,
to me seems
no
totally
way.
bizarre. But I can also then, maybe that's also a shame thing, right? Because these people generally who are watching like that stuff, they're like lonely and they can't get a girlfriend or a boyfriend in real life or whatever, so they go in to watch something or get, you know, have a relationship with something. And there's like, again, it's like being honest with a therapist. It's the same thing, right? It's like there's an embarrassment or a factor going and being vulnerable like that to another human. So if it's an AI that is the same level, you can see why maybe that works for certain people. And I mean,
Yeah.
in the future with robotics, as long as it gives a reach around as good as the next person, then, you know, I'm all for it.
You just can't fall off, really. The future's bright.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. Although, you know, you don't want some kind of malfunction when you're in that state. But there you go. And then the world we're in will probably start getting people that identify as robots and stuff. And then, you know, it's
I would imagine that happens already.
probably, yeah. I want to be a robot.
Yeah, except instead of it being like a little kid, it's some man in his 40s or something.
Yeah, like a Star Wars convention or something. Maybe that's a skill of
Insist
the future, you know, is putting microchips into people that want to transition to being
be a
robots.
robot. Yeah, exactly.
We've just found our multi-million-dollar idea, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to be involved in the fundraising process of that, we will get ourselves a crowdfunder going.
Be an early investor and it could pay huge dividends in the future.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah. Bot or not.com. Awesome. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up for today's episode about the future of work. If that has made you scared shitless or you're worried about what your future looks like, then don't message us. Talk to your therapist. We don't care. But
talk to your AI therapist. It might be better.
Don't come pissing and moaning to us. We both have enough of our own problems to deal with, and we're also going into that future. But do give us your thoughts and your opinions. Where do you think the world's going? Is there going to be a place in the future for humans to work, or will we just all be chilling out, letting our hair grow long and smoking bongs? Next
Sounds
week,
good.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, I quite like that idea. Next week, we're going to be diving into a mystery of the world that we live in now, and that mystery is known as Generation Alpha. These are the digital natives, and we're going to talk about what it's like raising humans in an artificial world and how those humans are approaching the world that they're coming into. We'll talk about childhood, early tech exposure, social development, learning patterns, and that educational balance that people will need to have to succeed in this world that we're going into, if there will be a world at all. Until then, thank you very much for liking, following, subscribing. You know where we are on X. All of our links are in the description as usual. And until next time, thank you very much, everyone.
See you next time, folks.